It is the successful bridge between under-penetrating, low-velocity pistol rounds and the ferocity that one can experience in the .357 Magnum caliber. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. The .38 Special began its life as a black powder cartridge developed by Smith & Wesson in 1898. It did, however, become so popular that within a year, a bunch of manufacturers of smokeless powder were cranking out tons and tons of it. Why so popular so fast? Well, it was probably the first pistol caliber to combine accuracy, shootability with manageable recoil, and effective ballistics. Those blended traits allowed it to be in service from its inception in 1899 with the Smith & Wesson Model 1899 all the way through the 1980s with various military and law enforcement agencies throughout the country. It does, in effect, still remain on duty, in a sense, in holsters for everyday carry and thousands of nightstands throughout the country. That's a remarkable 100-year-plus run by anybody's standards. The .38 Special, however, wasn't born out of its own divine inspiration. It was actually an improvement over something else. The else in this case was the .38 Long Colt. The Long Colt was proving nothing short of anemic in our fight with the Moros in the Philippines. Yes, we've talked about the Moros before, and they sort of get credit for not only the invention of the .45 ACP round, but the .38 Special. The Long Colt was incapable of penetrating the shields the Moros were using for protection, and the government flat demanded something with more power. Now, once again, those stimulant-enhanced Asiatic Muslims get the credit, believe it or not, for two of the most popular pistol rounds the world has ever seen. Now, having said all of that, I would like to ask our viewers, if you know a Moro, please contact me because I really want to meet one of those guys. They got to be a lot of fun. Specifically, the .38 Special is 9 by 29 millimeters R, the R designating rimmed. It is, of course, straight-walled and center-fired, and its original case capacity was 23.4 grains and still is today. The original black powder recipe used right around 21 grains, and it developed about as much power as a .380 ACP round. Now, I know a lot of people might disagree with that, but we'll talk more about that in a second. The .38 Special's design is basically completely based on the fact that it wants to launch a medium weight projectile at a medium speed. How much speed? Well, the average range round is loaded to about 17,000 psi and moves out at about 700 feet per second. There are various projectile weights that you can get for this caliber, and interestingly enough, you can also go the plus P route, but more on that in a moment. The .38 Special actual projectile diameter, though, has got a history in and of itself, as does all the other .38 caliber cartridges. Believe it or not, it's actually .357 diameter, not .38. Why is this, you ask? Well, it goes all the way back to the history of this pistol here, the .36 Colt Navy. This is a high standard replica of a Colt 1836 Navy pistol. The original Navy would have had a naval scene engraved on the cylinder, but this one is from Griswold and Gunnison, who made guns for the Confederacy during the Civil War. And the way things were going for them, obviously they did away with all of that finery and went to more of a functional firearm. This is a really nice replica. The original .38 caliber round was the .38 Short Colt, and it was designed to be used in a conversion kit of this pistol here. The .36 Colt Navy actually has an untapered cylinder wall of .374 diameter and used a heeled bullet. We've talked about heeled bullets on the show before, and what that is basically a projectile that's the same diameter as the case, and what they do is sort of cone or cave out the back of the projectile to get it to seat in the case mouth. Those aren't particularly around too much today, except for the .22 long rifle, of course rimfire, and is a heeled bullet. So what's interesting about all of that is it inherently creates versatility. You can shoot a .38 short, .38 long, .38 long Colt, all of those from a .38 Special pistol. And you can shoot a .38 Special in a .357 Magnum chambered gun. The only difference in all of them is essentially the case length. So that actually makes it quite a popular choice among shooters for all of that versatility. Now let's talk about the power in a stock load. Before, we mentioned that it's basically delivering about the same sort of hit power, if that's the word you want to use, as a 380 ACP round. Now, some people might not find that to be very impressive. However, what's interesting about the 38 Special is it doesn't overpenetrate. It dumps every bit of energy it has into the target. So I would urge caution before panic in that the weight of the 38 Special is by far more attractive than the lighter, faster rounds and the smaller, quicker 38 caliber loads, making it, in my opinion, probably one of the more deadlier calibers ever invented if you want to look at the amount of humanity that it's taken off the planet for maybe good or bad reasons. It certainly is effective then and remains so now. But let's, before we could, for a second, discover what this plus P thing is all about. From 1899 until 1930, the 38 Special was made by various manufacturers in countless models. It wasn't until 1930, though, that the gun industry experienced what I would call a monumental paradigm shift with the 38 Special. Smith & Wesson developed what they called the 38-44 Heavy Duty. This was a revolver that was basically a heavier frame for a 44 Special that they modified to shoot 38 Special rounds out of. The reason they did this was law enforcement was demanding a heavier bullet, in this case a 158 grain metal tipped projectile loaded with a higher powder charge. The reason why they want this, if you look at the date of 1930, was they were trying to develop a round that could defeat the heavier auto bodies of the day, as well as body armor that they were experiencing with car gangs. You can clearly see that that recipe is what's now called plus P and plus P plus. And significantly, you can also tell that the race to 357 Magnum was on. For those of you who have tuned in so far and are curious about why the 38 is called the Special, please be patient for just a bit longer. We're getting there. The 38 Special, in my opinion, will remain one of the more popular revolver rounds until we're actually using laser guns. The reason for this is quite simple. It is the successful bridge between underpenetrating, low-velocity pistol rounds and the ferocity that one can experience in the 357 Magnum caliber. It has, in my opinion, absolutely the best of both worlds, shootability and stoppability. Now back to the Special. The amount of 38 caliber rounds that were developed between 1877 and 1900 boggles the mind and absolutely paralyzes the senses. It was quite simply too difficult to keep track of them all. From the short, the long, the 38 Smith, yes, there is such a thing. I didn't really want to mention too much because it just adds to the confusion. So the main difference between all of these was case length. Smith & Wesson, in perhaps a lack of marketing ability at the time, had used up all the other descriptors that they could think of to call a new 38 caliber round. What a better way to differentiate their new invention than to call it what it was then and is now, the Special, because quite simply, it is, in my opinion, the best 38 round on the market then and now.